25 per 100,000 people pass by suicide, with the average of at least 37 people per day, or one person every 39 minutes pass by suicide. As much as we preach words like perseverance, what other word could we instill in ourselves and in our kids? How can we be the best in the world and be happy, healthy?
이 프로그램은 희망을 설계하는 전문가들의 은행 뱅크 오브 홉 제공입니다.
The career that I have today is not something that I majored in college, and it's certainly not something that I expected my entire life to revolve around. But everything I do and everything I am today is who I needed back then when I was a student. And I deeply believe that everything that I've been through in life has set me up to be able to share my story with you all and help as many people as in the world as I can. Specifically today, I'm honored to be invited onto a stage where I can talk about mental health with the Korean people. I was born in Seoul and came to the US when I was 10 years old. And even though I had to learn a brand new culture and a whole new language, one thing that remained the same and consistent throughout my life is the one thing that was instilled in me by my country as well as my mom: perseverance, work ethic, showing up no matter what. But I'm sure it's not just my mom. Korea loves this stuff. 화이팅, 가자. It's the spirit of hope. And thanks to the perseverance that I was able to carry and even grow throughout the times, I was able to make it through some of the most challenging moments of my life. For example, when I was 17 years old and my mom had a heart attack and had to go through an emergency surgery. Then a couple of months later, our apartment building caught a 5-alarm fire and we lost everything. Everything we loved, everything we worked so hard for, including a place to call home. Because of that, I've also had to live in shelters and motels. When I was 18, I was diagnosed with a chronic illness. When I was 19, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. When I was 20, my mom passed away. On the day of her funeral, I went to the funeral and then got right back onto the megabus to go back to school to finish out the semester. My professors would tell me, "I can't believe you're here," and I would wonder why. Because to me, I was only doing exactly what I was taught to do. Get it done no matter what. And since we lost our home to fire, once my mom passed, I lived in strangers' basements with no windows, no kitchen, just the microwave. And I worked a part-time job, even graveyard shifts, and went grocery shopping at the dollar store. By the time I was 22, I was already quitting my first full-time job after graduating college to become a motivational speaker. And when I was 23, I packed up and drove across the country to start my life in California. Because of the never give up attitude my mom taught me by example, bringing us to America, raising me and my brother, doing everything she could to get us that green card she never got to live to see, I was able to get through some of the most challenging moments of my life. As a motivational speaker, I share my life story a lot, and I hope that it can help people and inspire people to continue believing, to continue to strive for excellence, and to keep going in life. But to be honest, there are plenty full of motivational speakers out there basically saying the same thing. Work hard, persevere, get it done, no matter what. And through time, I realized that what I needed to hear in the tough moments weren't so much keep going and stay strong, because I already knew that, as much as it could have been slow down, take time to take care of yourself, mourn, grieve, rest. Your strength will always be there. My story of perseverance, of triumph, it sounds really cool, so inspirational. I get paid to talk about it. But the thing is, between all of that perseverance was the consequences of me growing up, not knowing how to process my emotions. So sadness became rage. I kept reacting out of anger to my friends and coworkers. I was drinking alcohol until I blacked out. I was overworking while neglecting my health, my eating, my sleep. I didn't know losing my home to fire or losing my mom or being diagnosed with a chronic illness meant trauma, loss. I didn't even know what grieving was and that there are different levels of grieving. I never took the time to rest. I never told anyone how I was feeling, how much I was hurting, and how much I miss my mom. On the outside, I was a victor. But inside my dorm room, when I was 19 years old, I was using my own medical supplies to take my own life. On the outside, I was a victor. But inside my apartment when I was 24 years old, I was getting a panic attack before work because I was prioritizing overworking over my own health and happiness. On the outside, I was excellent. But on the inside, my mental health was gasping for air. All because all I knew how to live life was by working hard, no matter what. Do you know the 3 things that South Korea is number 1 in the world for? The best in the world? Cosmetics, plastic surgery, and suicide. 25 per 100,000 people pass by suicide, with the average of at least 37 people per day, or 1 person every 39 minutes pass by suicide. Studies are finding that stressors like mental and physical illnesses, poverty, family and work issues, all the way to abuse and public humiliation are all factors. Statistics are also showing that the attempts of suicide for the youth are rising, while the passing of suicide is larger by the elderly of 64 plus years old. So, when we look at the statistics, as much as we are working, we are also hurting. As much as we preach words like perseverance, what other word could we instill in ourselves and in our kids? How can we be the best in the world and be happy, healthy? The answer I found surprised me because it turned out to be the one thing that I was taught not to do because it portrays weakness. But through my healing journey, I found this to be true over and over again. One of the most powerful and effective ways to living a happy, healthy, authentic, and empowering life is through vulnerability. While the definition of vulnerability says, the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally, I believe it is also the state of being exposed to the possibility of being embraced, nurtured, and celebrated. It's just that we weren't taught how. Vulnerability is simply the state of being exposed to the possibility of whatever happens on the other side of fear, stepping into the unknown. The biggest stigma about vulnerability is that it's a sign of weakness. Oftentimes, people think vulnerability is only about crying, but really, vulnerability is the core of emotions and feelings. Crying is just one part of it. Emotions are a part of the human psyche. Our brains not only process information or store memory, but they also process emotions. So it doesn't make sense to suppress what is human nature. Because society frowns upon vulnerability, it then disables us from being honest about our life experiences, sharing with people our hurt and pain, seeking the help that we need, and asking for support. This stigma only brings us shame and embarrassment, when really, vulnerability can liberate us into joy, empathy, and fulfillment. Isn't perseverance about going through something no matter what? Isn't courage about choosing to go through something no matter the risks? Isn't vulnerability about stepping into the unknown? So doesn't that mean that there is no courage without vulnerability? If it wasn't for vulnerability, we wouldn't fall in love. We wouldn't go after our dreams. I wouldn't have quit my job to become a speaker, and my mom would have never come to America. So alongside perseverance, if it isn't for vulnerability, tapping into the curiosity of what if, greatness cannot exist. As a child, it shouldn't have been my responsibility to know how to control my emotions. I was always told to stop crying and to focus on getting good grades. I wish that as a culture, as a society, we have a higher emotional intelligence where we could embrace one another's vulnerability, not shame or offend someone for their emotions and self-expression, but to actually encourage it so that we could be allowed to be human beings, not just humans doing, so that we could all have deeper connections and healthier relationships with one another as neighbors, as friends, as parents, and as children, so that we can be the greatest in the world and the healthiest in the world. I've learned a lot about grieving over the past 10 years after my mom passed, and I've learned that true healing is not possible without vulnerability. I told myself if I was ever to be put into a position that's similar, like grieving ever again, that I do things differently with everything I know now. I would let myself grieve. I would allow myself to rest. I would talk to my therapist, and maybe even open up to some of my closest friends who make me feel safe and who have the space and openness to listen. I'll ask for help because I wouldn't have the capacity to do some of the simplest things like doing laundry or doing the dishes or going grocery shopping. I also promised myself that I'd keep away from alcohol. And that's all exactly what I did. This time last year, I was in Korea laying my dad to rest. This year alone already, I celebrated 10 years of my mother passing and 1 year of my dad passing. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect and I'm not saying that I'm totally fine, but I'm confident and happy and thankful that I finally gave myself a break and asked for the help I've been deserving for the past 10 years. I took the time I needed to take care of myself so that I can keep doing what I love in excellence, and I keep showing up for the people I love with grace and gratitude. My dad always said, "Don't worry, don't hurry, be happy." I wish for all of us that rather than worrying, we can ask for help and compassion. Instead of hurrying, we can slow down and rest. And alongside working hard and striving to be our best selves, we can also be happy. And all of these can be achieved through vulnerability. I dedicate this presentation to my parents, my mom and dad. Thank you.
이 프로그램은 희망을 설계하는 전문가들의 은행 뱅크 오브 홉 제공이었습니다.